Welcome to another Apollo Papyrus podcast episode. I am Aaron Apollo Camp. For this episode, my interview guest is the author of the nonfiction book Overcoming and Beating the Odds, Turning Each of Life's Lessons into Blessings. His name is Darren Williams, also known as DC Williams, and my interview with DC will follow the teleportation sound. Darren Williams, welcome to the Apollo Papyrus podcast.
Thank you for having me.
Feel free to introduce yourself to our listeners.
Hi, everyone. Well, I'd like to start by saying what I do is what I am. And what I do is I help folks to overcome and beat the odds through life's lessons, turning those lessons into blessings. So I'm Darren Williams. I'm an author, also a coach, inspirational speaker, motivational speaker, and also a person of many virtues, many backgrounds, very diverse. So I'm not sure if you read the book yet, but the book is awesome. It's been getting some very good reviews, and we're on track to do some monumental things this year. So
what are some obstacles and setbacks you've experienced in life? Because this will help better understand what your book is about.
Not a problem. Not a problem. Some of the obstacles and setbacks have been at a very early age. Well, take it to the beginning. I grew up in Brooklyn, New York, back in the '60s. So I'm 50 plus. So basically, back then, life was real. It was real in the field, as I would say. And a lot of folks that know me, they know that. Those days, it was rough and raw. So you basically had to fend for yourself. New York has changed since COVID. But back then, I was going through some changes chemically because I had an asthmatic condition since the age of 3. So the doctor had prescribed some medication for me. But back then, we didn't know, living in the hood, we didn't know what steroids was. So I would have these outbursts and everything. And my mom kept saying, because I was a very disrespectful, as she would put it, a very disrespectful and disobedient child. And she said, you keep this up. When you turn 15, I'm putting you out. And guess what? 15 came on the way from home from school. And I knocked on the door and mom never opened the door. So and 3 years later, living in the street, living in shelters. I lived in a shelter for a short period of time. I also lived in a cemetery, which I got shot at by the caretaker and almost lost my life several times throughout the years. And also, I wound up seeking shelter at a church that was not too far from where Mom lived, and that reverend, he took me in, and he was my first mentor, and he guided me. So fast forward, went to law enforcement and had a great time with law enforcement. Got shot, got stabbed. I got shot before going into the academy, and I got stabbed during I think it was my 3rd year in the police department. So it's been a wild ride. So
your book is titled Overcoming and Beating the Odds, Turning Each of Life's Lessons into Blessings. Without spoiling too much of your nonfiction book, what is it about?
It's about when life hits you, how to handle it. It's about what do you do when no one is coming to save you. I've heard on several social media outlets, and they talk about that. Actually, chapter 3 is entitled to that. Nobody's coming to save you. And at the age of 15, I was faced with that. And it was, I was a kid. I was a child. I had no idea how to survive or anything. So I had to learn on my own. And till the day, I still don't really trust too many people, especially a lot of retired law enforcement. We don't trust a lot of people, because there's a lot of scams. There's a lot of smoke and mirrors out there. There's a lot of noise on the internet. So basically, this book is a a guidebook to be able to go through whatever obstacles, challenges, setbacks that you might face over the years, and give you a blueprint and a map, to at least be able to know what direction you want to head in. A lot of kids at that age, they suffer in silence, and they turn to drugs, they turn to crime, and I almost got caught up in a lot of that too. So it's a thin line, but I'm glad I met some men and some women, some powerful folks that took me under their wing, and they guided me and they mentored me. So,
who designed the cover of your book?
My team. I had I had a cover designer. I had a whole team of folks who put the book together, and it was a grueling process. It was about 8 to 10 months. But before that, I had been procrastinating doing this book for almost 15 years. And because a lot of people have heard my story who I talked to, one-on-ones and stuff like that. And they told me, D, you need to write a book. And they said, I can't believe you went through all that. I said, yeah, I did, So that's why I did it. And that's why the cover is the way it is. We went through several cover designs, but that one stuck out with me because, the horizon with the grass, that's symbolic to me.
How long did it take you to write your book?
It took about almost, I would say about 10 months, 10 months. Yeah. It was almost a year. And it was when you write a book, you deep dive in what we call a brain dump. You dump all the stuff that you've gone through, and you put it on, you map it out, and you put it on paper and everything, and you kind of piece everything together. And I had to take some things out of there because my wife, my awesome wife, happy wife, happy life, she told me, she said, baby, this is a little too dark. You need to kind of put a positive spin on some of this stuff, because it is what it is. But I took a lot of that stuff out, and, to make it more positive. But there are some things in there that I didn't share, and I share one-on-ones with people because I'm doing coaching now. And yeah, that's the reason.
What are the easiest and hardest aspects of writing a nonfiction book for you?
The easiest aspect is, I would say, writing about the folks that have made an impact and have changed not only my life, but the lives of people that were around me, people that also were mentored by those same people. And the hardest part is reliving that. I remember after getting my first proofread from my editor, and reading it, and I got up to, I forgot what chapter it was, and my wife came in the room and she was like, "You okay?" I said, "Yeah." And she said, "No, you're crying." And I didn't realize I was tearing up, because to relive it over and over again and to get it out is one thing, but to open yourself up to mainstream media and the public and let them know all the stuff that I've gone through, because some people will kind of look at me and say, "Oh, well, why did you have it so bad?" I just told them, I just did the best I could under the circumstances, and I let God lead me into the direction He led me in. But my Father didn't fail me.
Is your book Overcoming and Beating the Odds self-published, traditionally published, or hybrid published?
It's self-published.
Do you plan on, or are you considering writing more books? And if so, what are some ideas you have for books that you will or may write in the future?
Yes, I will definitely be doing a couple of more books because there's still a lot more stories in me and a lot more things to share to impact and uplift people. And what was the other question you said?
That was the question. It was a
Oh,
two-part question. You answered both parts of that pretty well. So I'll move on to the what are some ideas you have for books that you will or may, or if you can elaborate on that a little more?
well, one is giving some instructions as to not only what you're going through, but some detailed informational guidelines as to just how far, because you want to always leave it up to the reader to come to their own conclusion. You don't want to pigeonhole someone into a direction where they feel obligated. Oh, I only have one path. No, to get to the top of a mountain, there's numerous ways to get to the top of a mountain. It depends on which angle, which direction, the climate. There are many factors. So knowing those things help, and knowing those things make your book pop and really stand out with your audience and everybody.
How can one turn their struggles into strengths?
Oh, by giving back, and that's what I do. So right now, I'm talking to several organizations and several churches, and speaking to the young men there. There are young women there also, but my ministry is young men, because right now, especially with the way the country is going, it's going to hell in a handbag right now. So we just have to pray, and make sure that we have some guidance, some direction with the young folks, because young folks right now, um, they lack that leadership, they lack that guidance, and being able to be I would say like a lamplighter, and a lamplighter is a beacon of hope. Traditionally, that's what they use to guide the ships during troubled waters and dark times. So that was one of the things that one of my mentors, he passed away a few years back. We called him that, and I took up that mantle right now.
What is your best advice for those who want to develop a winning mindset?
Is to don't focus on where you are, focus on where you need to go, and have a plan. No plan means that you don't have any direction. And if you don't have any direction, any direction will do. So the most important thing is stay focused, stay steady, have a direction in which you want to go, and also be able to know that whatever baby steps, because I took baby steps over the years. So little steps over a long period of time, just like in business, time compounding. So a penny a day doubled for 30 days is well over millions of dollars. People don't realize that little small change, that little small step, those little small things that you can do and apply can lead to great results.
As I understand it, you have quite a bit of experience training and retraining sales professionals. Is that correct?
Yes, yes.
What is it like to train and retrain sales professionals?
Well, because a lot of times sales professionals, they get comfortable in thinking and seeing sale, or they see a customer in one direction. There were several instances where I had to train because I was the lead trainer for this company. So to give you a little backstory on that, I was a part of 5 different nonprofit charities. So Doctors Without Borders, Disabled American Veterans, called DAV, ASPCA, the Nature Conservatory, and then Heifer International. So when you go from one charity to the next, it usually takes you a couple of days to kind of switch over with the mindset of because it's different information. So a lot of sales professionals, they get stagnated into doing things one way, but that's not a way that's going to be productive. And I proved that over and over again. So I wound up having to train the trainers to train, and it was a pleasure because a lot of times, and I had people wanting to work with me for at least 3, 4 days a week. My boss she allowed them to work with me one day, and we kind of got them on their way. And I was able to kind of tweak what they do because I'm a problem solver. So I mean, I'm a solution oriented person. So I'm able to kind of dissect and see exactly what a person was doing, or how they were missing out on something, because connectivity with another human being is important. And a lot of times we get into the mindset of, I'm just going to sell, sell, sell. No, you have to connect first before doing that. Because if you don't, then you really don't understand the business at hand. So, and I had to wind up doing that several times over.
One final question. As you're from the Miami, Florida area, if I recall correctly, what is your favorite aspect of living in South Florida?
I would say the weather, but I'm still part polar bear because I'm from New York, so I still love the cold weather. I recently lost over 100 plus pounds, so I have a cold sensitivity. But living in Florida has been a pleasure because the people here are very great. They're nice. They're polite. The food is fantastic. It reminds me like New York, so because it's fast paced. So, but like I said, I love the people, I love the culture, I love the atmosphere here, and Miami is a fantastic place to be in.
Darren, thank you for appearing on the Apollo Papyrus podcast. You were an insightful and wonderful guest to interview.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate you, and I appreciate all that you do. Your show is fantastic.
It was wonderful to interview DC, and I thank him for appearing on this podcast. While I have an opportunity, I'll provide an update regarding the upcoming 9th season of this podcast. In a departure from the 2 seasons per 6 months format this podcast has more or less followed for the past couple of years, Season 9 of the Apollo Papyrus podcast will run, with episodes being uploaded starting in February and ending in October, with Season 9 being the only season of the podcast entirely in 2025. This is Aaron Apollo Camp reminding y'all to find your writing and reading purpose in and for 2025 and beyond. Bye for now. Copyright Aaron Apollo Camp, all rights reserved. This podcast episode is intended for the private listening of our audience. Any reuse or retransmission of this episode without the express written consent of the podcast host is prohibited, except under fair use guidelines. Royalty-free music and sound effects obtained from https://www.zapsplat.com.